Welcome to the Powell Bros Movie Reviews, brought to you by our supporters at Patreon. In case you have been under a rock, the world around us is in ruins. A nihilistic worldview permeates the film industry. Sodomites control the cultural narrative. Corporations run by sexual perverts and money launderers are constantly pumping out garbage content in order to entertain us. We here at the Powell Bros are over it. We want to give honest reviews of movies that expose the wicked and glorify the good. We want to find stories that have masculine male characters who slay dragons, and feminine female characters who need saving. We want stories and want to see creators who have an artistic prowess that shames and defeats our enemies. We are tired of the nihilistic moral ambiguity of modern-day entertainment. And we want stories that change people, that inspire people towards goodness, truth, and beauty. And most importantly, we want the entire entertainment industry to bow the knee to Jesus Christ, who is Lord of all. Yes, we are Christians, and we are unashamed of that. And if that bothers you, too bad. Now, if you do wish to support us in our mission, please head over to patreon.com/the Powell Bros, or follow the link in the show notes. There you will gain access to our exclusive show, the Powell Bros Mini Reviews, as well as early access to both movie chronicles and movie reviews. Now, on with the show.
McDonald's, the largest fast food chain ever to exist, as well as one of the largest real estate companies. It has become quite an empire, maybe slowing down a bit since they got rid of their fun aspects and gone way overpriced, but I digress. What made this company what it is today? Rather, who made it what it is today? Did they have to be morally corrupt, or was it done with integrity? Who was the founder?
All right, welcome back to the Powell Bros Movie Reviews. We are here again, and this is a fun episode because we are together in person for the first time for our movie reviews. And yeah, I'm one of your hosts, Tobias Powell, joined with your other host, Trent. Trent, how you doing?
Doing well. Reunited, and it feels so good.
Yeah, it's great.
Good. And we're sitting on a two-person couch, and it's not weird because we're brothers.
Yeah. So, Trent, what movie are we reviewing, and what are your first thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, we are here reviewing in person together The Founder.
Oh,
The Founder.
yeah, this was one of my picks.
One of Tobias' picks. Another one I had not seen. Or wait, no, this is the first. No, yeah, because I hadn't seen Whiplash, so I hadn't seen this one either. So excited to be able to watch this one and to unpack it. And one thing I just love about this podcast is that we don't just post 10-minute movie reviews like a lot of channels do. It's like, no, we sit here, dissect it, unpack it, criticize it,
walk through the whole story and say everything that's good and everything that's bad.
Yeah. So I do it with this one, and this movie I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't know anything about it. I was expecting one thing, and it subverted my expectations in a way that and it wasn't necessarily bad. It told the story that it told, and I was appreciative of it, and I definitely enjoyed the movies. I was intrigued. There wasn't a moment where I was like, "Oh, this movie's so long. Like, when's it gonna end?" Like, I felt it kept me engaged through the whole story, but also kind of trying to figure out where it's going. I think halfway through the movie, I was like, "Okay, now I understand where this is gonna end and where this is going," and I was right. And so it's good. Like, sometimes I like to be caught off guard, especially because for the whole half the movie, I was like, "Okay, I think it's gonna go one way," and I'm like, "Okay, no, it's going a different way," and I was there for it. It was good, and it told pretty coherent story. I didn't have really any issues with the plot, and acting was solid. Michael Keaton's one of my favorite actors, and I know this is probably one of his more popular or better movies, and hadn't seen it before, so shame on me. But let's see it. We got a lot of good actors this season. J.K. Simmons, Nicolas Cage. Mel Gibson. Next week we got Russell Crowe, and today Michael Keaton. So Batman himself, the original not really the original Batman, but my Batman. Probably he's my favorite Batman. Another story for another day, or another topic for another day. So yeah, there's my thoughts. It's a good movie. Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Sad, not happy ending. Like some, yeah, like a lot of movies sometimes, and that's the direction they took, and they did it well.
Yeah. This movie I think is a perfect tragedy movie. And I think they do this is a tragic story that is done very, very well. Like if they had made the Joker well, it would have mirrored this movie. And this kind of story is a flip of what a hero story is. So like even like when you get to the end, your Dark Knight of the Soul is like, how do they get to their fully bad state? Like what do they have to do to like overcome their goodness to become bad? Like it's all flip, and I think it's very well done in this movie.
Yes,
But anyway, we're getting way to the end.
cautionary tale of
Definitely.
a man who falls from grace, falls from glory, and it's really interesting. It's an underdog story that where you actually root for the underdog in the beginning, but then you get to a certain point where it's like, oh, you're not rooting for him, but you kind of are, but you're not, and you realize the direction that he chooses to go down, and it's a character story. This is a character that we're following, that we're watching, and that we're learning about. This is a real person. This is based off a true story, but this is this is a character that a lot of people play in life, and this is the direction that people choose. And this is a cautionary tale to show like, hey, success may be great, but is it worth it? What's the cost?
Yeah.
And what does it do to those around you? And yeah, so you want to walk us through the plot
Yeah.
of this film?
Yeah, so this movie, I like the opening shot. It just opens straight on Ray Kroc as he's staring into the camera, and he's doing a sales pitch for some milkshake mixers, and we automatically see that he's outgoing, energetic, determined.
Good salesman.
Yeah, good salesman, but he's trying to sell something that nobody wants, so he gets rejected right away. So yeah, so I just really like that opening shot of him. Because he's trying to sell himself to us because he's staring right in the camera, and I love that, like that we right off the bat have a sympathy for him because he's trying to sell something. We see that he's determined, but then he gets rejected, and yeah, I really like that. And then so he gets rejected, and then he goes for a pick me up at a drive-in diner, and he has to wait a long time to get his food, and he just orders a burger, fries, and a drink, and he gets annoyed because he's having to wait so long, and then we see a repeat of him trying to sell to another guy. Then that one doesn't work either, so he goes to another diner, gets the wrong meal. So he orders a meal, gets the wrong food. Yeah, and then we
Good setup for the story.
Yeah.
Telling us where this is going. Kind of show it's creating the world, setting it for us to see. Okay, this is gonna play into the story, and so forth, and then we meet our technically our protagonists.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
Some more protagonists.
Yeah, it'd be protagonists, even if the character's going in the wrong direction, it's still our protagonist.
I think before that we also learned that his marriage is in shambles for the most part. He's kind of estranged from his wife.
So right after that, he calls his wife, and she's just very disconnected, definitely towards his work and what he's doing. She just has no interest in what he's doing and thinks he's a loser. And she doesn't say that, but you can just tell through what she's saying to him and the way she's talking to him.
And he's telling her that, oh yeah, there's a lot of interest for the ice cream maker that I'm selling, when there really wasn't. And he was trying to hype it up, saying like, hey, I'm being successful. I'm making sales and things are rolling.
Yeah,
they're not.
Yep. Yeah. So then he gets a call from his secretary, and she tells him that they had gotten a call for an order of 6 mixers. He can't believe it. He's like, no, there must be something wrong. Give me the number. I'll call him. He calls, and they're like, hey, this is so-and-so at McDonald's. How can I help you? he's like, hey, I got an order for 6 mixers. I'm assuming there's some sort of mistake. And they're like, yeah, that there was a mistake. I'd actually like to order 8. And he's like, excuse me? And realizes that they want to buy a bunch of mixers from him. And he's very intrigued and curious. So he I
Pulls
don't
out a
know
map.
where he is, but yeah, he pulls out a map.
He's from Illinois, so I'm guessing he drives. He might have been somewhere else doing a sales pitch, but he drives pretty far to Southern California.
The point is that he drives far. He looks at a map, sees the highway that goes all the way across over to Los Angeles, and well, just outside of Los Angeles, like San Bernardino. So that's where it is. And he gets in his car, drives over there, and sees a very busy store, busy restaurant, and a lot of people hanging around, enjoying themselves. So he goes up, orders some food. It's so quick, he can't even believe it. He's like, no, this can't be mine. I just ordered my food. And he's like, nope, that's it. And
he walks up. It's not a drive-in.
Yeah, he walks up.
He gets food in a paper bag and a paper cup.
Yeah.
So it's, you can throw, it's disposable, throw it away. Something he's not used to. This is new. It's a new concept. All new. And he's like, what in the world is this? And it's a guy who likes restaurants, likes food. And so he's having a new experience.
Yeah.
He's intrigued.
Yep. Yeah, so he's very intrigued. Wants to know how it all works. So he meets the owners to introduce himself, that he's got the ice cream mixers, and asks to see around, and they're all very willing to let him look at it, and they show him around the whole place. There's a quote that they say when they show him the whole place, and then they tell him, he asks like, hey, can we go sit at a diner, and I'd like to take you out and hear your story, and they oblige, and they go to a restaurant, and they tell their whole story of how they started it. And it's these 2 brothers that wanted to, well, essentially be different and make a restaurant because they started a diner, and so they wanted something that was different than that, because they realized like this isn't working. There's so much overhead is what they say, overhead pay, and like a lot of things that would break, and just wasn't working. So Dick McDonald had the idea of essentially McDonald's and their paper bags, their super easy layout for their restaurant, very efficient. And then I love one of the quotes that he says, what's the other name? It's Dick, and who's
Dick
the
and
other guy?
Mac.
Mac
McDonald.
Yeah.
Wait, which one's Ron Swanson?
Dick.
So Nick Offerman plays Dick McDonald.
Yep.
A mustacheless Dick McDonald.
Yeah. I love this quote from Mac. He says, "We were an overnight sensation, 3 years in the making."
Yep.
Love that quote.
It's good.
Anyway, so then Ray sees the opportunity, and he takes this, everything he just saw and learned, to his hotel and thinks over it. And then he goes first thing in the morning to their restaurant, and he's using his skill of selling to convince them to let him be a part of it and to franchise it. And he basically gets on hands and knees begging them to let him franchise. And then he learns that they already tried to franchise, and they couldn't keep the stores to their standards. So
People start doing their own thing.
They would just do their own thing, and they just couldn't, with just the 2 of them, they couldn't manage them all and keep them all in line. And then I love this part where Ray sees a picture. This is right after the conversation. He's in the office still with them. He sees a picture of this concept for a McDonald's, and is really intrigued by it, and asks where that is. And it's in their Phoenix location. They're like, we made one. It's in Phoenix. And this is probably my favorite scene in the movie, where he drives overnight to Phoenix, the Phoenix restaurant. And by the time he gets there, it's nighttime. And he gets out of the car and looks at the glowing yellow arches and McDonald's sign and just smiles. Yep. And I love that scene. Like, you just see where this movie's going from right there. And
character on his journey.
Yes. And he at that point he knows this is revolutionary and he needs to be a part of it. And he tells his wife, and at this point she just thinks he's chasing another dead-end fantasy that's just not going to work out, just another little side hustle that's just going to make them more broke.
Yep.
And she has no support for him and thinks he's basically ruining his family. So he listens to her and goes back to selling the machine, and then I think he only tries to sell one, gets a door slammed in his face.
Yep.
And so he immediately goes back to the McDonald's brothers and uses his magic to convince them to allow him to make franchises. And after a lot of convincing, they agree. And that was, that's pretty much our first act right there. And I think this is where we go into our second act, and they agree to let him do it with a leash on him. They have a very extensive contract to make sure that he does not essentially
Run off
take
and do his
over
own
their
thing,
business,
take
do
over
his own thing.
That was the issue with the other franchisees, and
Yeah.
they were kind of setting their own standards and not following the standards of the McDonald's brothers and doing their own thing. So they wanted to protect their business from that happening with I'm blanking on his name, Croc. With Croc, and making sure that Ray is doing staying to their standards and following their contract and keeping a leash on them, like I said.
Yep. And so at that point, like, he needs to raise the money himself. He needs to get some money to start up his first franchise.
So he goes to the bank.
And so he goes to the bank, and all the bankers recognize him.
Oh, you sold me this.
Yeah,
You sold me that.
You sold me this. You sold me that. And so no one's willing to give him any money because they're like
Kind of laughing at him.
Yeah, we're like, we know you. We know you're not gonna make anything of yourself through this 10th idea of yours.
Yeah.
And so he's really struggling. Can't get one, so he puts a mortgage on his house to get the money.
Mm-hmm.
And
tells him that when he gives the phone number to the banker, he gives him his work phone to make sure it's not his home number, because he's keeping it from his wife.
Yeah.
So he's keeping it from her that he's mortgaged their home, and in order to have get the money so that he can do this first franchise.
Yeah. So. Yep, and essentially just doing this all against his wife, and pretty much behind her back at first. And
and then we meet his first customers, but his first franchisees that go in on this with him, and it's at a club that he and his wife attend regularly. They it's a high-end club. They golf. Guys golf. Women just sit around and talk about women things, but very high-end.
Yeah, rich.
So they're at dinner one night, and he pitches the idea of McDonald's to these men, and they're all intrigued. And then we have a whole montage of him signing over contracts to all these men so they can have their own franchises.
Yeah, and at that dinner was interesting. That was the first time we see his wife support him.
Yep. Yeah, she decides to turn, because they're
making fun of him, just like the bankers did.
Yeah.
And she's like, actually, no, you should hear him out. This is a good one.
Yeah.
And then they all listen. They're like, oh, interesting.
All right.
She's on board. I guess we should listen to this.
So
So with all his passion at this point, the McDonald's brothers are having some concern already. Mostly Dick. Dick's he's very protective and concerned, critical thinker, and then Mac is the easygoing guy. Just don't worry about it. Everything's gonna be fine.
Let's find out that Mac has diabetes and has had some issues with keeping his his blood pressure under control. He gets high, he gets stressed out easily, and I think it's causing him to pass out, and pretty bad in the past. It's hurting his kidneys, and we find out that more later, but we do learn a little bit about that now, going forward. And so he needs to keep things kind of a little bit more chill and under wraps. So he tries not to get worked up about things, and tries to tether his brother a little bit, who's just not having it with Ray. So they're Ray. I love Ray and Dick's dynamic throughout the film as they kind of go back and forth a lot, and I just like just the act. I mean, Nick Offerman and Michael Keaton do a great job at acting all their scenes out as they're kind of bickering a lot, going back and forth, arguing and negotiating and working through different issues related to the business, and I definitely enjoyed that aspect of the film moving forward. So.
Yeah, for sure.
But
yeah, so then he goes check out a few of the franchises. So yeah, there's that montage of him making well, it's actually before the montage because he makes a few deals with a bunch of the higher ups at the club.
Yeah.
And so I think he gets like, I don't know, 3 guys maybe, and then he goes and checks out their restaurants, and they're going completely against his standards. They're overcooking the burgers. They're putting lettuce on these things.
Yep. And pickles.
Yeah.
But also some of the restaurants are selling food that they're not supposed to be selling. Fried chicken and
things like that.
Beef, like all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So doing their own things, which was something that Dick was worried about, and Ray actually acknowledges and notices, and he's like, "Oh, this is a problem." He literally takes one of the burgers that he gets from one of the franchisee's restaurants, goes to him on the golf course, and just kind of scolds him in the middle of his golf game over why there's lettuce in the burger, and why there's not enough pickles and the ketchup's all wrong and stuff. And it was a really good scene because that was kind of a turning point for him, because he's like, I can't work with these guys, and he's like, I need to find someone else. Like, so first roadblock in the story, first issue that he's having to work through, and as he's looking to build this whole franchise. And so he goes after the guys, and then we move on to the next group of franchisees, I guess, that he looks to.
So right before that, he goes to his wife. This is just a little scene, but I think it's an important one.
Huh.
His wife wants to go to the club again, and he's like, actually, I canceled our membership.
Yep. Cancel it. We're not doing that anymore.
And she was quite furious with him.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those points where we also see in her personality that she really cares what her image is and what other people are thinking of her.
Right.
And yeah, so then he's like, okay, I got a problem with quality control. This is exactly what the other guys had. I need to fix it, otherwise I'm losing this.
Right.
Like, I can't just say I can do this and then not
solve the problem.
And that's when he meets a Bible salesman who's selling Bibles.
He's a Jew selling Catholic Bibles.
A Jew selling Catholic Bibles to his secretary, and she's just trying to get him out, but he's being very persistent. Yeah. And he's the whole time he's in the other room, and he's very curious and listening in. And then he finally leaves, and then Ray chases after him and asks him, like, why are you doing this? And he's like, I'm just trying to pay the bills. And he's like, huh. And so then next scene we see him signing a contract for a franchise.
He and his wife.
So him and his wife. And so
next scene he's running his store, managing it, bossing people around, and kind of working in the McDonald's business again now. So it's kind of his new thing. And he's buys a franchise, and that's the first one that we see, where Ray finds just someone that will do a good job, and be faithful to the business, be faithful to the model, faithful to the quality standards that are set. And then I think after that we get a couple more, right? So he finds some other guys, a few more that he knows of, and I think another salesman he finds, and signs another contract.
He's finding these broke guys that were just like him, that are determined and hardworking. And he's like, no, these are the guys I need involved. And
which is like pretty good, like a hopeful point in the story. It's like, okay, things are going well. Dick and Mac are still a little frustrated and worried, but for the most part, things are working out, and they even recognizing, okay, things are going well. Quality control is under control, and everything's quality control is under control. Everything's going well up to standards, and Ray's working out. Business is growing and so forth, and
And then so this is the point where
find out about how much he's making.
no, not yet.
Okay.
This is where he makes his store, his first franchise store, McDonald's number one. And so the McDonald's brothers see this, and I don't think they call him or anything. This is just like they were talking to themselves, and this is one of those times where Dick was really concerned.
It's either in the paper or
I think they just got some files or something, and we really see Ray's cockiness and arrogance at this point.
And he's starting. So, and I kind of just now noticed this when the brothers sit down and tell Ray his story. That's both for us, the audience, but also for the characters. He's learning about their past and where they're going. But it's also to help us see what Ray decides to do later on, because Ray at this point is now starting to take credit for a lot of the past and the history that the story of McDonald's and the brothers, and he's starting to say like he's the one that started this. He's the original. He came up with these concepts. I think he was even asked like, oh, when this might be a little bit later. Yeah. But it's still helpful. He's asked, so when did you start McDonald's? When did you come up with the idea? It's like, oh, and he's kind of thinking it's like 1953 or 1950, whatever, which is when the brothers started it. And so he steals that idea and takes credit for it. And there's little glimpses of that throughout the film that all tie back to when he sat down with the brothers and talked, and they told him their story.
And we also see like at this point that this is where he's starting to leave the McDonald's brothers in the dust as they sit in their store without an ounce of ambition, and he's out here getting all these franchises going. And so you actually weren't far off. That's when, right after that is when he meets he meets this other woman, and that's who was asking him. She asks him,
and
so this was in the middle of making franchises. He meets this couple that the husband runs
a restaurant.
He runs a high-end restaurant, but he wants to start his own McDonald's franchise. And then he talks with the wife. He's clearly smitten by her.
Right. And so Michael Keaton's talking with the owner and his, I don't know, one of his partners or something.
I think it was Ray's partners.
Ray's. Okay. And
I think they know Ray.
Right.
And that's why when she asks him, when did you start it? They give him a look like you didn't start this.
Right. Well, they both looked at him like that. But you have a scene where this blonde lady in a red dress starts playing the piano, and Michael Keaton looks over and sees her and is kind of smitten by her, staring at her. And it was at that moment that I knew where the story was going. It was that moment that I was like, okay, so this movie is not what I'm expecting it to be going up to this point. And obviously at that point I know the movie can take either two directions, but I was pretty certain the direction it was going to go. I did end up being right. But it was a good moment in the story where it's like, this is his pivotal moment. This is the choice. This is a choice that he's going to have to make. I mean, it sets the trajectory for the rest of the story. But he sees the woman, he's smitten by her. And I knew that because okay, so he's going to fall in love with this woman. He's going to leave his wife and so forth. But sorry, I'm getting a little ahead. She comes over. Because she's playing piano and he's looking at her. He's like, and then her husband's like, oh, you want to meet her? And then she comes over and she's like, oh, this is my wife, and introduces her. I don't know if she was like a well-known singer or something. She might have been, because it seemed like
I think she was just a singer at the
club,
the
restaurant.
Yeah, I don't think maybe. I don't think he'd ever met her or knew anything about her.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So that all transpired, and then they talk about starting a franchise. I don't know, was this the ice cream thing was later? So
so right after this is when he realizes he's not making any money. So
in his contract, the McDonald's brothers said, okay, you could make 1.4%
Yep.
or so of was it just profit from McDonald's,
Yeah.
as a franchisee. And
So
at
any
the time,
profits each restaurant makes, he gets 1.4% of
right.
it.
At the time, it seemed reasonable. 1.4 can be a lot, as you grow a business.
Especially he was really broke. He was desperate at the
Right.
time, so that's what he needed. I
Right.
mean, he didn't even have, when he was reading over the contracts, he didn't even have a lawyer there. He was just skimming over.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I noticed that. He's like, he didn't have a lawyer. He was just doing this himself.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And then he, well, and so he finds out from he's looking at the ledger. His secretaries has their ledger. He's like, hey, like we have no overhead, we have no capital, like we're not making any money.
Yeah.
Like we're breaking even.
Well, that was the thing. He was trying to do another franchise. I
Right.
think it was their franchise, that couple.
Okay. Yep.
And he
right.
couldn't because they didn't have enough overhead.
Right.
So he needed more money.
Yeah.
So that's when he goes to the brothers and tries to negotiate. He wants 4% now.
Yeah.
And so this leads and they deny him it, and this is where the brothers start to argue because they're worried he's on his way to take over. Like they realize that
this direction is
they
going
say
not good.
This was, I think, a line from Dick. He says, "There's a wolf in the hen house, and we let him in."
Yeah.
And so this they realize it now, and they're very concerned at that point. And then right after this, his wife finds out about the mortgage.
Yep.
And again, upset with him. And so he goes to the bank. He tries to he gets mad at them because he calls.
He's getting notices. Late notices of his mortgage.
Yeah,
He's not
and they
paying
call.
it.
Well, they call him at home.
Call him at home.
And
His wife's
and that's how his wife finds out, and he's mad at them, and he's like, "You're 4 payments late. You don't get to decide
where I call you. Like, I need to get a hold of you.
Yeah,
you need to find out. Like, hey, you're not paying your bills.
Yeah,
you're not paying your mortgage. We're gonna foreclose your house.
Yeah. So he's low on money with the low percentage of ownership. So he has to find a way to make more money,
more profitable.
Find a way to get them to give him more or whatever.
So this is the
ice cream thing.
Yeah, he finds out that
yeah.
they're spending a lot of extra money keeping their freezers running with full of ice cream.
Yeah, and that's
every
all
single
they're using
every restaurant.
And they're huge freezers. Every restaurant's spending a ton of money, hundreds of dollars a month.
Lots of money. And so he goes to the lady and her I don't remember her name, Judy, something like that.
Yeah,
let's say Jody. She finds out that or she learns of this business or whatever that sells powdered milkshakes. Says literally you just take a powder, pour it in water, stir it, and it tastes just like a milkshake, just like the real thing, and it's way cheaper. You don't have to pay for freezers, and super easy and convenient. And so he's like, oh yeah, I'm all for this. Let me pitch this to Dick and Mac. Pitches it to them. They're like, yeah, absolutely no way. Like that's not happening. We're not doing that. We're not sacrificing our quality for convenience or even for it to be cheaper. It's like that's not what we're about. And so they're not for it. So there's more bickering, more back and forth. I think that's when Ray just hangs up the phone. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So this is the first time like he's actually going against their standards.
Right.
And up to that point, he was always like
compromising, but sticking to their standards.
Yeah.
And
like he always enjoyed their standards for their stores.
Stretches a little bit.
And wants it. And well, he doesn't even stretch it at any point because as far as the food goes, like he was totally on board with their standards and how the restaurant's running.
I was just thinking about just growing the business.
In those areas he was definitely. But this is the point where he goes against their standards for the food, and so now they're even more unhappy with the situation.
Right.
And then this is where he meets Ryan from The Office.
Yeah.
The character's name is Harry.
Yep.
And
the temp became a lawyer.
Yeah. So he's at the bank again trying to figure something out, and Ryan, he's a businessman, and he overhears Ray talking to the banker and hears about Ray's horrible deal. And then they meet each other and they talk about it, and he offers him a game-changing deal. And this is his quote, which I think is a very popular quote. You don't build an empire off of a 1.4. You don't build an empire off of a 1.4% of a 15-cent burger. You build it by owning the land where that burger is made.
Yep.
And so he's telling him, you do not own a burger company. You own a real estate company. And so that's what he does with Ryan, and they make a real estate company, and he buys the land on that every McDonald's is on. And this is the point where he's gaining the control of the brothers that the brothers wanted to avoid in the first place.
And he starts his own company in order to do that, called the Franchisee Realtor Company or
franchise, franchise real estate company.
Yep.
And
so it's his own company doing his own thing. It just happens to, coincide with the McDonald's, and he's buying up all the land that all the franchisees have the restaurants on.
Yeah, and so they immediately find out and realize that all their franchises are now on the land that this company owns, and they find out that they realize that it's Ray that owns the company, and they're saying, like, you're going against your contract, you can't do this. And he's like, actually I can. This is my own company. I can do whatever I want personally. I started a real estate company and wanted to invest, and this has nothing to do with McDonald's.
Right. And at the same time, like, they're like saying, like, you can't do this, you're not allowed to do this. And he's like, I can do what I want. I don't care what you guys want. I'm going to do this. You guys can't stop me. You guys have no control, and so forth. He's actively being antagonistic towards them. And it's growing, it's been growing since that last conversation, and we just see even more here. It's like he's doing his own thing. He could care less about the brothers, even if he's starting to kind of screw them over.
Yeah, and so this is where we definitely see him getting out of control, even in the sense of, like, before, like, I mean, at the beginning of this movie, he was a nice guy, easygoing, very likable. We felt his struggle and his passion. He was a good salesman. And then at this point,
he was driven, underdog, wants to be successful, just wants to make a living for his wife.
Yep. And now he's gone overboard. So right after that, he sends out the fake milkshakes and
to every restaurant,
every single restaurant. Doesn't even let the guys know. And they were very upset about that.
So they sent it to every store but yours.
Yeah.
But the McDonald's, the original one.
Yeah. That's the original. He doesn't send it to them. Yeah. Oh, and then so he sends out the milkshakes. They have that conversation where they're very upset about that because they had already told him no. And that kind of got let go. And then we see another scene right after that. This is where his wife and him are sitting at a table, and he just tells her straight up, like, I want a divorce.
Yeah.
And
which I was expecting her to go to him, like, in the story. Like, I was expecting her to go to him and say, hey, I can't do this anymore. I want out. I want to walk out. But no, he's like, I want a divorce. Like, so he's even being antagonistic towards his wife, saying, I don't want this. I don't want you. I'm not happy. And there's been more sexual tension between him and the other woman, and you can even sense that the husband is starting to see that. I think before this is when he goes to her restaurant and meets her like, late at night while she's working, because they've started that restaurant. She's working the staff in the kitchen, and she comes out and talks to her, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just doing a routine inspection, a random routine inspection." Even though he wasn't, he was just going to see her. But there's been flirting, and there's been some tension there throughout the story, and so we know that's he's being drawn towards her, and now he's like, I don't want to be with my wife. I'm not even gonna try anymore. Like, I'm done.
Yep.
And then I think the next scene is like he's meeting with their divorce lawyers.
Yep.
And he's like, I don't. She can have everything. She can have the house, the car, but not McDonald's. She can't have a single penny from McDonald's.
Yeah.
So he's just saying like it shows that he's willing to give up everything, his wife, his house, his car, everything, but he wants McDonald's.
Yeah.
He's keeping that for himself. He's holding on to that idol. He's not going to let it go. He's going to give up everything else for that.
Yep.
Because he knows it's going to be successful. He knows that he can be have one of the greatest businesses ever.
Yeah.
But also because he just doesn't care. That's all he wants. He's all he's driven towards.
Yeah. I did want to note, so back when so I think the third act starts when he makes his own company. So I just wanted to say that we are pretty much in the third act where things are falling into place for his essentially downfall.
Right. Yeah, because that was when I noted it's like, okay, I think this is kind of like a Dark Night of the Soul where it's like things are starting to unravel for him from at least from this
his perspective, everything's working out.
Like we're seeing everything unravel.
Yeah.
But he's getting what he wants.
Yeah.
But as the villain, as the antagonist, as the one who's building this empire to the chagrin of everyone else around him. So we see that happening around that time, going into the third act where things are he's going to lose his wife, he's going to lose his house, he's going to lose everything, but he doesn't care.
Well, when so he makes that company. Yeah, we see that he just essentially beat the brothers.
Yes,
and then he divorces his wife, sends out the fake milkshakes.
Yep,
and then right after that, he changes the name of his company to the McDonald's Corporation.
Yep.
And the brothers call him. They're like, "What the heck is this?
Can't do this.
We are going to sue you." But Ray proves to them that he won by showing them that if they try anything on him, he will bury them in
Legal
raised
fees.
costs through his land. Like they cannot survive if they do anything to him. Like he can bury them.
Yeah.
And
he's placed himself in a position where he can't be beat.
Yep. And
they even admit that. The brothers say like, he's got us.
And this is I mean, this is where it gets really intense because so he's Ray says that business is a war, and he would go to his drowning competitor and stick a hose in his mouth to beat him. And he asked the brothers if they would do he asked Mac. He's like, would you do the same? And he says, no, I wouldn't.
Oh yeah, because this is Mac takes the phone from Dick and he chews him out. Like the whole movie, he's been pretty passive, pretty chill.
Yeah.
But that moment, he when there are him and Ray and Dick are arguing, and so Mac grabs the phone. Was like he chews him out. He goes after him, and it ends with that. Like would you be willing to do that? And Max pauses for a second. And he's like, no, I couldn't. And then
and then that's when Mac collapses. Yeah. Ends up in the hospital, and the final blow of not the final blow. I mean, another blow. Ray goes and visits them, and gives them.
And you're wondering like, okay, is he making peace here? Is he repenting?
Yeah. Does he feel bad?
Does he feel bad? Is he going to be sympathetic? But no, he.
When he walks in the hospital, he's holding flowers and being very kind.
Yep.
And he's like, "Hey, I even have a card for you. You should read it." And then he essentially insists, like, "Read it now."
Like they weren't going to. Like, read the card.
And he opens it up, and it's a blank check, and it takes them a second. But then they're like, "Wait a minute, what are you buying?" What are you buying? And he says he's gonna buy the company.
Yeah.
And they have that moment of defeat. Like they realize he's won. He has officially won. Mm-hmm. They agree. They make an offer. They want 1% of the company. They both want $1 million after taxes.
Which, what was that? 2.3.
Something like that. Yeah.
So only $300,000 on $2 million. Today it would be like double that.
Yeah.
triple that.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
Takes place in the 1970s ish or 1960s.
Well, there's a huge
time passes a lot.
A lot of time passes.
Right.
In this
Another movie with good. Another movie does a really good job at passing time.
Yeah.
It's our third one so far with Shawshank Redemption, Patriot, and then this one. a lot of time elapses throughout the film,
Yeah.
but they do it almost seamlessly. You don't realize it.
Yeah. And so Ray is hesitant, but Ryan convinces him this is the best
right
deal.
thing.
It's the right thing.
Do it.
Just do it. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, this is like, that's so much. And he's like, 1%, is that really a lot? Think of what you're building here. That's gonna be nothing. Like, and the $2 million, nothing.
Yeah.
And so he makes the deal, but he says to them, the 1% of the company that they will be receiving has to be done on a handshake basis and a promise, not written in the contract. And they just have to trust that he will do it.
And you just see their faces, and that was the final blow. That was the final moment where they were defeated.
Yeah,
because they knew they've lost.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they've only lost their business, but they're not going to get the 1%. They knew that at that moment. Even though he promises, he shakes their hand and says, I will make sure you guys get your royalties.
Yeah,
I will do it. And
yeah.
You kind of, and you think like, okay, does he? But no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't keep his word because he hasn't kept his word. He's been lying and he's been a snake throughout the whole film, and there's no reason to believe that he will do it now. And the reason he didn't put it in the contract was because the franchisees didn't want to go for that because they knew 1% was going to be a pretty significant amount.
Yeah,
which it would be, especially today.
Yeah,
after all these years.
Yeah, and I think the Dark Knight of the Soul was when he changed the company to McDonald's Corporation.
Okay.
Because you had those few things right before that. He made the.
What was that? So that's a question though. Is like, is that his Dark Knight of the Soul? Is that?
It's kind of both.
It's kind of, yeah.
It's both.
Okay.
It kind of goes together. Well, it's not Dark Knight of the Soul for him.
He doesn't. Yeah.
It's because he's the villain, so he's winning.
Right.
So like that was his final, like, one of the final blows for the winning. Yeah. I guess you could technically say it was the 1% deal.
Well,
that
was like the climax almost.
Yeah,
of the story. Like that was.
It's because it's a villain story, so it's a little different. Yeah. But you had like he made the company, sent out the milkshakes, divorced his wife, changed the name of the company, and then they call him and they're like, "We're gonna sue you," and he's like, "You can't sue me. I won." Yeah, and it's like that was like I think the Dark Knight of the Soul.
Yeah,
and we'll finish up the story, and then we can kind of dig into that a little more and talk about like where, like what his character development was and all that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they make the deal. They take the handshake. After that, they Ray and Dick are in the bathroom washing their hands, and Dick asks him, "Why didn't you take our idea instead of taking over our restaurant?"
Right.
And Ray says, I bet you had a bunch of other guys walk through your kitchen just like you let me.
Yep.
And they all went out and failed. But all those restaurants were lacking one thing. Do you know what that is? And he says, I don't know. And he's like, see, even you don't know.
A clown. I'm just kidding.
The name. McDonald's.
Where did the clown and Hamburglar and all those come from? Where'd that come in? I don't know. Did Ray come up with it?
I think he did it to make fun of the owner.
Maybe. I don't know. Ronald McDonald. Yeah. No one was named Ronald in this.
Yeah. And then we kind of have our outro here. Right after that, we see another scene just like the very first shot where he's talking to us again.
Yep.
And he's explaining his how he was able to do it, and he says persistence.
Yeah.
It's what got him everything. And then he's like rehearsing for like to talk to the president, and I think maybe it's a speech or something. I think he's being awarded maybe or something like that.
Something like that.
And then he hands someone his business card. Can't remember who he handed it to, but on it says the founder.
Yeah.
And
Well, and as he's rehearsing the speech, you hear a voice in the background, and a woman comes up, and it's the woman that he's been infatuated by. He's been falling in love with. So obviously, she left her husband for him, and they're married, and so forth. So
Yep.
So you get that, and then you gives a business card, and the business card says, Ray Kroc, the founder.
Yep.
So he claims that he's obviously he's the founder of McDonald's,
and he married that girl. And then in a speech, he talks about where it all started, and he said it was right there on Lee Street, McDonald's #1, and that was his first franchise location. And it just shows like he stuck with his story of lying about how he wasn't the founder, and he started taking credit for everything.
Yep.
This movie obviously took place way after he died.
Yep.
Because he didn't want that made.
Nope. And he also opened up a McDonald's franchise across the street from the brothers, their original restaurant. They had to change their name legally because they sold over the company. Yep. They changed it to the Big M or something.
Yeah, it's just
Big M.
Big M.
And they opened a McDonald's across the street. And was that when Ray handed the business card? I think he did, because there was someone there. I didn't even notice that. It was like right in front of the brothers. Like he took credit for everything there as he tore down their business.
Yep.
So
their restaurant lasted 3 years.
Was it even 3 years? It was like
2 or 3 years, something like that.
Yeah.
They never received a penny of the handshake deal.
Nope.
And lost their store, lost everything.
Yeah. I mean,
they walked out with $1 million
each, which was a lot then.
Yeah.
So
But
still, they lost everything. They were defeated. It's pretty tragic.
Very.
And especially all that they worked for, and all they worked for was lost. And that.
So you have like the character development. So we go from this honest, kind, hardworking man, a husband, to essentially a backstabbing, adulterous, greedy pig.
Yeah.
And this is my summary of the movie, is that he gained the whole world but lost his soul.
Good job.
Yep. And that's the story of this movie.
He gained everything and lost his soul in that process.
And and his sacrifice moment, he sacrificed everything. He sacrificed his wife. He sacrificed his house.
Yep.
He didn't have kids, but I'm sure he would have sacrificed them too.
Yeah, sure. I wonder if they ever had kids. So, because he was actually married to, maybe this is something for after hours, but he was married to a woman in between the two women. He had 3 wives. He lived the rest of his life with the wife he ended up with at the end.
Yeah.
And in the end, says she donated $1.7 million something dollars at the end. Billion dollars. Yeah. Pretty much all his worth to a charity.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
Yep.
Didn't really say why she did that or what. But she did that after he died. And yeah. Was that.
Dark Knight of the Soul, he made his company.
Yep.
Did all those things to destroy them. And to overcome his Dark Knight of the Soul, he had to stop being kind. Like, he had to become a corporate man.
Right. Because if he wouldn't have done all the things he did, McDonald's would not be what it is today.
Yeah.
That was kind of the one thing that the story was telling us. Like, he had to do all these things in order for the business to be successful, but at what cost? And it was at to the detriment of those around him.
Yeah, what was the girl's quote? She even said something like, you can't build an empire without something.
Yeah, you can't without sacrificing others or something like that.
Without sacrifice or something like that. Yeah.
Right. It was we should remember that line, but it was a pretty key line. So it's like he was successful. He did create this business. He created one of the biggest corporations of all time. But the cost of those 2 brothers, of his family, of his own soul, his life, and I'm sure he was probably a pretty miserable person. But he was so devoted to this corporation and to what end. But
it
was even interesting as we were talking about this. I was thinking about how he's kind of like the serpent in the garden, where he wants to become like God. He claims himself to be the founder, so he lies and deceives himself. He takes the woman from he takes a woman from her husband, her faithful, loving husband. He deceives, he lies, he cheats, he steals.
He literally said, "Take a bite of this apple."
There you go.
Take a bite of this burger.
Yep. There you go. He did. Yep. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But you see things like that in these stories. Like, I don't know if it was intentional.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't, but maybe it was. I don't know. Probably wasn't. But you see that it's like, it's clearly like he is the serpent. He is deceived. He is taken from Adam. He is taken, and he's become like God. Even though it's a lie.
Yeah.
He built this empire upon lies. It's his empire of dirt. That's worthless and to the detriment of others, and with the building an empire upon the bones of his enemies, who were actually should not have been his enemies.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was interesting. This is a cautionary tale of what happens when you give yourself over to your idols, when you give yourself over to something in such a way that you begin to be careless of others and harm the ones that love you and the ones that you once loved and so forth. So,
yep,
it's an interesting story. It's a well told story. It's not a happy ending.
Very well told story,
but a well told story and a true story. Like this is true characters. Yes, it's actually a true story, but it's filled with characters that are actually, people are like this. People do live this way.
Yeah.
And we learn from it. We learn from this stories like this because they are cautionary tales. Don't go this way, man.
Yeah.
Turn away from this path if you are on this path. Success is not worth it if it costs the lives of those around you, if it harms those that you love.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to hear more, we're going to talk a bit about this in our Patreon, some of the interesting details.
Got a lot out of this one, actually.
Yeah, and you can subscribe on our Patreon for that, and helps support us, helps us be able to continue doing this. We definitely wouldn't be doing this without our supporters that are already subscribed to Patreon, so any other support is
appreciated.
Much appreciated, and how we're able to do this, and we want to continue to grow and continue giving you guys good reviews of these movies.
If you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button,
subscribe,
and please comment
share,
your favorite fast food burger. Let's hear it.
Yep, let's hear your favorite burger.
Fast food.
All right, what do you want? What's your rating of this movie?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a hard one. I don't have did we have anything wrong with this movie? Did we anything negative except for the fact that it's not like a happy ending? I don't know.
I know.
It's a good film.
It's a great
I don't know. It's
cast acting was phenomenal.
Michael Keaton's he did such a good job playing.
Oh, I love the visuals in this movie too.
The visuals
are incredible.
Yeah.
I love those very memorable shots of when he's looking at the arches at night and it's the floor is wet behind him, so there's some glow and they show his face and he smiles.
It's good.
It's great. And
I don't know.
This
is probably a 9 for me. I might hit 9 flat.
9, that's it?
Yeah, because for me, I also want stories that are hopeful and that are more optimistic and have happy endings. That's just how I'm wired. It's I'm gonna say that Patriot is a better movie than this because of that. But from a movie standpoint, from a story, it's I get it. It's pretty darn perfect. I don't but 9 is very high praise for me.
This is a 9.6 for
9.6. Okay, that's fair. So we might get 9.
We can do 9.3 since that's an open spot.
Let's do 9.3.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
I need to go back and find all our individual ratings because I want to compare those at the end of this season too.
Definitely.
So I'm gonna write this one down actually.
Yeah. So that's The Founder. If we got anything else, 9.3. That is a high score. That's almost
that's
pretty darn Close.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, my list is already changing. I can't remember what I gave Whiplash personally.
You probably gave it like a 9, 5, or 6.
Yeah,
It's probably.
I think
Close to
this one's above Whiplash
I
now.
think so. Yeah.
I think this is, and it's definitely above Pig. I think I gave Pig like a 9, and you gave it like a 8 something. That's why we have it at 8, 9. So, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's our review of The Founder.
And like I'll say, like like this whole season, our movies are just gonna be so close, like
Yeah,
in that high 8s and 9 range.
at
and
some
so
point
it's
we're
just-
probably going to be
Well, we
having
did
the same rating for some movies. And...
We did last. What was it?
No,
It was one of them. We had the same. We had the same score, didn't we?
no, there's not a single one that's the same score.
No, that we had. Like
Oh,
you and I,
oh,
like,
yeah,
both
yeah,
came with
yeah.
the same score.
Oh, I think that that was the
you're saying-
Patriot. We
yeah,
both
yeah,
did
Patriot,
9.
both
for
9s.
Patriot.
Okay.
No, I'm saying like the
The-
Patriots
okay.
9, so maybe we'll have another movie that's 9.
Okay.
And I'm sure that's going to happen this season.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so far it's worked out that we haven't had to. I mean, we have.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. And close this out.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. That's our review of The Founder. We hope you enjoyed it. And we certainly enjoyed it. That was fun. Definitely being in person. And we hope we'll be able to do that again soon sometime, but
Sure.
be a little while. But yeah, next week we got... What do we got next?
Gladiator.
Gladiators next. All right. Gladiators next.
Tobias not seen.
I have not seen that one. I think
Oh,
it's...
I'm excited.
Yeah, that's the only one I haven't seen out of all the movies we're reviewing this
Okay.
season. So I haven't seen the Iron Giant in a very long time, so I guess you can technically say I haven't seen that. But all the other ones, yeah. So that'll be interesting to see for the first time, and looking forward to it. I know it's a cult classic, so it's long overdue. But yeah, you can look forward to that next week. We thank you for listening, and remember to glorify God and watch good movies.
Yep.
We're out.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.